The Kursk. The Kursk submarine incident was one of the worst naval disasters in Russian history. It happened on August 12, 2000, when the nuclear-powered submarine K-141 Kursk sank in the Barents Sea during a routine naval exercise. All 118 crew members on board were killed. The Kursk was a Project 949A anti-Oscar II class submarine, originally designed to carry 24 long-range cruise missiles and 18 torpedoes. It was taking part in the first major Russian naval exercise in over a decade, involving over 30 different ships and submarines. The Kursk was supposed to fire 2 dummy torpedoes at a target, but something strange went wrong. At 11:29 a.m., an unstable weld in the casing of a 65 to 76 kit practice torpedo leaked high-test peroxide HTP inside the torpedo tube. This caused a chemical reaction that ignited a fire and triggered an explosion. The blast blew off the tube doors, damaged the control room, and killed the crew in the first 2 compartments. Just 2 minutes and 15 seconds later, a second, much larger explosion went off, caused by the detonation of 5 to 7 warheads of other torpedoes in the same compartment. The force of the explosion was equivalent to a few tons of TNT and was picked up by seismographs as far away as Alaska. The explosion tore a massive hole in the hull, collapsed the bulkheads and decks between the first 4 compartments, and killed everyone that was still alive in the forward section of the sub. The Kursk then sank to the bottom of the sea at 354 feet. The nuclear reactors shut down safely, and the remaining crew members in the rear compartments tried to survive and send signals out for help. But the Russian Navy didn't realize that an accident took place until 6 hours later, and didn't find the submarine until 16 hours after the disaster. The rescue efforts were delayed by bad weather, faulty equipment, and bureaucracy. The Russian Navy also refused to accept help from other countries like Norway and Britain until it was too late. When British and Norwegian divers finally reached the sub on August 21st, they found no remaining survivors. The escape hatch in the 9th compartment was flooded, and the crew suffocated from carbon dioxide poisoning. The Kursk submarine disaster exposed the poor state of the Russian Navy and the lack of accountability in the Russian government. President Vladimir Putin was heavily criticized for his slow response as he continued his vacation at a resort in Sochi and didn't visit the scene of the tragedy until August 23rd. The official investigation blamed the accident on the faulty torpedo. But a few experts and relatives of the victims argued over this conclusion and suggested that the Kursk may have collided with a foreign submarine or been hit by accidental friendly fire. The Kursk was eventually raised from the seabed in October 2001, and the remains of the crew were recovered and buried with full military honors. The Kursk submarine disaster remains a painful and controversial episode in Russia's history. OceanGate's Titan. OceanGate's Titan submersible was a feat of modern engineering, designed to withstand the pressures of the deep sea and offer a window into a world only a few humans have witnessed. On June 26, 2023, the Titan set off on a mission to see the wreck of the Titanic at a depth of 3,800 meters below sea level. The Titanic, an infamous symbol of human tragedy, has been on the ocean floor for over a century. The Titan's mission was not just one of exploration, but also of remembrance, connecting the present with a pivotal moment in our history. As the Titan started its descent, the crew of 5 were excited and anxious. The deep sea is a realm of perpetual darkness, pressure, and eerie silence, but it also holds the promise of discovery. Sadly, disaster struck. The Titan imploded under the pressure of the deep sea, instantly killing all 5 passengers. The news of the catastrophe sent shockwaves through the world, a grim reminder of the risks involved in pushing the boundaries of exploration. The loss of the Titan and its crew is a tragic reminder of the power of the sea. It underscores the bravery of those who venture into the unknown and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. As investigations into the disaster continue on, the hope is that lessons will be learned to stop such a tragedy from ever happening again. In the wake of the tragedy, the world mourns the loss of the brave explorers. Their sacrifice is a sobering testament to the human spirit's unyielding curiosity and our pursuit to explore uncharted frontiers. The SS Kiangya. The SS Kiangya was a Chinese steamer that burst into flames and sank on December 4, 1948, killing thousands of people. It was one of the deadliest maritime disasters in human history, but the exact cause and death toll is unclear. The SS Kiangya was built in 1920 by the Mitsubishi Shipbuilding Company in Japan. It was originally named the SS Kashiwara Maru and used as both a passenger and cargo ship. In 1945, after World War II, the ship was seized by the Chinese nationalist government. That's when it was renamed the SS Kiangya. In 1948, China was in the middle of a civil war between the nationalists and the communists. Millions of refugees fled from communist-controlled areas to the nationalist-held cities like Shanghai. The SS Kiangya was one of the ships that transported these refugees. On December 3, 1948, the SS Kiangya left Shanghai headed for Ningbo. The ship was severely overcrowded, carrying over 6,000 passengers, while its official capacity was just 1,186. Many of the passengers were women and children, and some were even wounded soldiers. The ship also carried cargo like rice, cotton, and coal. The next day, around 5:15 a.m., the SS Kiangya was sailing around the mouth of the Huangpu River, about 50 miles south of Shanghai. Suddenly, a huge explosion tore through the ship, tearing it apart. The blast was so powerful that it shattered windows and shook buildings. The ship sank quickly, taking most of the passengers with it. The water was cold and polluted, and many of the survivors had hypothermia and infections. The rescue efforts were delayed by a lack of boats, equipment, and coordination. The exact cause of the explosion is unknown, but the most likely explanation is that the ship hit a mine left over from World War II. The Huangpu River was heavily mined by the Japanese during the war, and many of the mines were never cleared after the conflict. Some of the mines were magnetic and could be triggered by the ship's metal hull. Another possibility is that the explosion was caused by sabotage or a fire erupting in the cargo. The death toll of the SS Kiangya disaster is also very uncertain, since there was no official passenger list or registration. The estimates range anywhere from 2,750 to 3,920, based on the number of tickets sold, the number of survivors, and the number of bodies found. Some sources claim that the death toll could total as high as 5,000 or even 10,000, but these figures are not fully supported by evidence. The SS Kiangya disaster remains one of the worst tragedies in maritime history as a consequence of war and chaos. What's the worst maritime disaster you've ever heard of? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video. The Indian Ocean Tsunami. The 2004 Indian Ocean Tsunami was one of the most devastating natural disasters ever, claiming over 230,000 lives and displacing millions of people in 14 different countries. It was caused by an undersea earthquake off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia on December 26, 2004. The earthquake had a large magnitude of 9.1, making it the third largest ever recorded. It released energy amounts equivalent to 23,000 Hiroshima-type atomic bombs and even shifted the Earth's mass, changing the planet's overall rotation. The earthquake generated a series of colossal waves that traveled across the Indian Ocean at 500 miles per hour, about the speed of a jet plane. The first tsunami waves hit the shores of Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and other countries within minutes of the quake. Many people were unaware of the amount of danger they were in and didn't have time to escape to higher ground. The waves swept away everything in their path. They carried debris, bodies, and salt water inland, contaminating freshwater sources and farmland around the world. The tsunami caused severe damage to the environment and the economies of the affected regions. It either killed or injured millions of animals, including endangered species like the Sumatran tiger and the leatherback turtle. It also damaged coral reefs, mangroves, and coastal forests that provide crucial habitat and protection for marine life. The tsunami destroyed fishing boats, ports, and markets, affecting the livelihoods of millions of people who depend on the ocean for food and income. The total losses from the tsunami were estimated at $10 billion. The tsunami also triggered a global humanitarian response, with countries and organizations around the world rushing in to provide aid and assistance to survivors. The United Nations coordinated the largest relief operation in recorded history, involving over 40 countries and hundreds of different agencies. The relief efforts included delivering food, water, medicine, shelter, and clothing to the affected areas, as well as restoring basic services like electricity, communication, and transportation. The relief efforts also focused on helping survivors cope with the trauma and grief the disaster put them through, as well as preventing the spread of diseases and protecting the human rights of vulnerable groups. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was a tragic event that showed the sheer power and unpredictability of nature, as well as the resilience and solidarity of the human spirit. It also highlighted the need for better disaster preparedness and early warning systems, and the importance of environmental conservation. The tsunami taught us valuable lessons that can help us reduce the impact of future disasters. Sinking of the White Star. The sinking of the White Star was a tragic event that changed the course of English history. It went down on the night of November 25, 1120, when a ship with several nobles, including the heir to the throne, William Adelin, sank in the English Channel of the Normandy coast. Only one person survived the ordeal, out of over 300 on board. The ship, named the White Ship, La Blanche Nef in French, was a new and fast vessel. It was captained by Thomas Fitzstephen, whose father served William the Conqueror back in 1066. Thomas offered a ship to King Henry I of England, who had just finished up a meeting with his barons in Normandy. But the king declined and decided to take another ship. But he allowed his son William and many others in his circle to take the White Ship, including several of his illegitimate children, his niece, and a few earls and knights. According to the chronicler Orderich Vitalis, the passengers and crew of the White Ship were in a happy mood and drank a lot of wine before setting sail. They also wanted to pass the King's ship and reach England first. But as the ship sailed in the dark, it hit a submerged rock and capsized. William Adelin managed to get himself into a small boat, but he turned back to rescue his half-sister Matilda, who was crying out for help. His boat was then swamped by others trying to save themselves, and he drowned with them. The only survivor was a butcher from Rouen, who clung onto the rock until he was rescued a day later. The news of the disaster was devastating for King Henry, who apparently never smiled again. He had no other legitimate son for the throne, and his only legitimate daughter Matilda was married to the Holy Roman Emperor. He tried to secure his line of succession by making his barons swear to support Matilda. But after his death in 1135, his nephew Stephen of Blois took the throne, leading to a period of civil war referred to as the Anarchy. The loss of the Spanish Armada. The Spanish Armada was a huge naval fleet sent by King Philip II of Spain in 1588 to invade England and dethrone Queen Elizabeth I. The Armada had 130 ships, 8,000 sailors, and 18,000 soldiers, and was supported by a large army in the Spanish Netherlands led by the Duke of Parma. But the Armada faced many challenges that ultimately led to its defeat and destruction. One of the main reasons for the failure of the Armada was the superior strategy and tactics employed by the English Navy. English ships were faster, maneuverable, and better armed than the Spanish galleons, which were designed for close combat and boarding purposes. The English also had the advantage of fighting in their home waters, wind direction, and fire ships. The fire ships were burning vessels that the English sent into the anchored Spanish fleet at Calais, causing widespread panic and disorder among the Spanish ships. The English then attacked the scattered and vulnerable Armada at the Battle of Gravelines, inflicting heavy damage and casualties. Another reason for the Armada disaster was the poor communication and coordination between the Spanish forces. The Armada was supposed to escort the army of Parma across the English Channel, but the two forces never actually met. Because of this, the Spanish had no reliable way of communicating with each other, and they didn't have a clear plan or a common commander. The English, on the other hand, had a unified command under Lord Howard and Sir Francis Drake, and they used beacons and flags to signal both their movements and intentions. A final reason for the destruction of the Armada was the harsh weather and long journey back to Spain. After the defeat at Gravelines, the Armada had no choice but to sail north around Scotland and Ireland, avoiding the English Channel entirely. The Armada faced many storms, shipwrecks, starvation, disease, and attacks by pirates and enemies on their way. Many boats and men were lost or captured, and only about half of the original fleet made it back to Spain. The loss of the Armada was a huge blow to the prestige and power of Spain, and a great boost to the morale and confidence of England. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.